Where do you stand on January the 6th? Hi, I'm Scoot, and this is the Scoot in the Air YouTube channel. Appreciate you being with us. Want to welcome those of you who are new subscribers. And if you haven't become a subscriber yet, we invite you to subscribe. It's free, and we give you a notice every time we post something. This is a topic that I would rather not talk about, but it's a topic that is impossible to avoid. January 6th, 1 year ago, this was a dark, dark day in the history of American democracy. A dark day. On this anniversary of January the 6th, let's confront the anger, the fear, the hopelessness that brought about this dark day. Let's defeat the despair that grips our country. Those were the words of Republican Congressman from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger, a Middle East war vet, an honorable man who, because he dared to tell the truth about January the 6th, because he dared to stand up to some Republicans, he's been ostracized and is not seeking reelection. That is a sad reality. There are extreme factions within the Republican Party that, from somebody who was a Republican much of his life, are destroying the Republican Party. I am a radical moderate. I am registered independent. I don't give a shit about either party. I think they're both full of shit. I vote for the best candidate, period. I don't belong to either political tribe. I feel sorry for people who define their identity through their political ideology. There are people in America who don't know who the shit they are unless they define themselves as a Republican, conservative, or a Democrat, a liberal. There are extreme factions in the Democrat Party, the extreme progressives, Antifa. That's true. But the extreme left doesn't seem to have the ability to curse Democrats that stand up against them or voice their opinion against them the way Republicans on the right have the ability to curse people like Adam Kinzinger. Look, here's the good news about Kinzinger. A year ago, after January 6th, he started an organization called Country First. And it was dedicated to fighting right-wing extremism, which he said is destroying the Republican Party. And he's right about this. He's right. You don't have to be an extremist to be a Republican. You don't have to support Trump to be a Republican or even to be a conservative. On my radio show on WWL, we often talked about rats. You've heard of rhinos, Republican in name only. Rats are Republicans against Trump. And there are many. And it's going to be really interesting to see where this country goes and where the Republican Party goes. What I find interesting is the Republicans, the conservatives, the Trump supporters that have an inability to distinguish themselves from the rioters. The people that stormed the Capitol on January the 6th were Trump supporters. But not all Trump supporters would have done that. Not all conservatives, not all Republicans, not all Trump supporters supported that. So why is it that so many Republicans and conservatives feel like they have to defend, even if it's through their tacit reaction, even if it's through their silence? Why do they feel the need to defend those people? What, because they're Trump supporters? If you're not one of them, so what? Distinguish yourself from them. I've said this many times. You know, I'm a radio talk show host. There are a lot of radio talk show hosts that are full of shit. They're phony and they're full of shit. I've worked with some of them. I know. I hear them behind the scenes. I've heard them behind the scenes. I've worked all over the country. And a lot of them are phony fuckers. So if people bash talk show hosts, I don't take it personally because I'm not one of them. Well, at least in my mind, I'm not one of them. So if you're a Trump supporter, why can't you recognize that January 6th was the result of Trump supporters gone wild, but it's not all Trump supporters? The whole thing about Antifa, Black Lives Matter, that is total bullshit. And yet people believe it. There might have been a few people sprinkled here and there, but the group, the overwhelming group was a group of Trump supporters. And I forget the Republican politician, but a Republican politician said the other day that walking through the Capitol should not be a crime. Are you fucking kidding me? Do you think that riot was an example of walking through the Capitol? This is the distorted, myopic view that so many people hold that is destroying our friggin' country. Why can't we agree on the facts? The facts point to these were Trump supporters, but not all Trump supporters support that. Why can't we accept that? The fact is, it was an attempt to undermine democracy in America on American soil. And there are protests around this country. There were riots around this country involving Black Lives Matter activists that were bad and horrific and terrible and should not have happened and should not be endorsed. And those things were bad. But I'm not excusing that. But don't compare that to an effort to undermine a legal election in America. And everything leading up to January 6th indicated that it was a legal election. Just because people don't want something to be true doesn't mean it's not true. And so, as a patriotic American, this is frustrating for me. And there are a lot of us who are patriotic Americans who don't get this, don't understand it, don't understand the lack of understanding of the truth. There were people who wanted to kill the vice president, who, might I remind you, was a Republican. We're now getting reports of text messages from Fox News' Sean Hannity telling the president to try to stop this. His daughter, Ivanka, texting him, telling him to do something about this. He did nothing. I think it was 187 minutes. President Donald Trump sat there on his flabby white ass and he watched. And somehow, apparently, loved it. He did nothing. This was all done in his name. And there were many things that he said leading up to January 6th that indicated that this might happen. And that he knew that there were plans. Things like, we're going to get those who are responsible. And I don't remember all the exact verbiage, but Trump talked about overturning the election. And he planted the seed that the election was rigged. He lost the election and could not stand that idea. And some of his followers are so weak that they followed right along. And they're blinded by their loyalty. They're blinded to reality. So where do we go from here? How do we interpret this? History, I think, is going to interpret this in the absolute harshest terms. and it's gonna make us look stupid as a country. And everybody in this country, outside of those who were there, who were part of it, should denounce what happened. And yet, there is defense of what happened, and then again, through the silence, through Republicans not having the courage to speak out, being afraid to speak out. Republicans afraid to speak out. Are you afraid? Yes, you're afraid. There are Republicans afraid to speak out. There were Republicans that attacked law enforcement. They attacked the cops. Those people in that group were not acting like the law and order party. You can say all the shit you want, but if you don't back it up with your actions, it's bullshit. So we shall see what happens from here. I'm quite proud of where I stand. I am a patriotic American, and I stand on the side of the truth. I recognize what happened. I don't blame all Trump supporters. I don't blame all Republicans, and I don't blame all conservatives. And I admire and respect people like Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger from Illinois and Ben Sass from Nebraska and other Republicans, Liz Cheney from Wyoming, who are brave enough to stand up for the truth. There's only one truth. And the truth is that was an insurrection. It was an attack on our government. It was an attack by terrorists, domestic terrorists. The majority of them have proven to be Trump supporters. But not all Trump supporters are that way. And if we can't distinguish between those two things in an effort to get to the truth, then we deserve what we get.